Ian, let me ask you this: as far as the recession, we actually have a panel at InvestFest. Get your tickets
Please
about
do.
how to prepare for a recession. So give the people some nuggets on how to brace themselves for this economic storm that we're in right now.
Number one, educate yourself on the markets that are going to be the most popular within 10 years. Because if you're following the old trend, there are so many players that have saturated that market, you won't be able to have an impact there. Number two, you have to have connections, and we were talking about it before we started. Relationships matter. You can't build an empire on your own. It's impossible to do so. Number three, you have to learn from people that are smarter than you, who have the money that you want to have. So my thing is, if a person has more money than me, I'm going to listen. And I know some of you in the comments are going to be like, there's evil billionaires. I get all that. But usually if a person has ascended to where you want to be, they have a pathway for you to get there. And number four, you have to master investing. You have to. So like if you don't know how to buy houses, stocks, businesses, any asset at the best prices, you are going to get manipulated and taken advantage of. So those are my four tips. What would you guys say for this recession?
I always say to pay off debt.
Absolutely.
Especially credit card debt. Yeah. That's extremely important. Boost up your cash reserves if you can, because anything can happen. Obviously, people get laid off during recession, so you want to make sure you have money on the sideline and money that you can sustain yourself. Invest, because during a recession, it's usually good times to invest. When the stock market is down, or now crypto is down as well. Housing prices are still high, but who knows, that could drop as well. And I will also say invest in your education and skill set.
Yeah.
And I feel like, talk about entrepreneurship, it's always a good time to start a business, because, it's never a good time to not have control of your destiny.
Absolutely.
But the best time to start a business is during economic downturns. And I feel like, my first career before this was a financial advisor, and I started in 2008, which was the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then during COVID, which was the last economic downturn that we had, we already had a business going, but we doubled down on it.
Yeah.
Market Mondays was created during COVID. We started a lot of different verticals during COVID. So I feel like that is always an opportunity to, hit when it's down.
Absolutely.
So I would definitely recommend and suggest that for people. Definitely invest in your education, look to start a business, save money, invest, and keep your debt low. You should keep your debt low at all times.
No matter what.
But definitely during economic downturns, because anything can happen, right? It's like I always say, you don't prepare for a blizzard when it's snowing.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have salt. Like if you're in New York, like you got the salt, you got the shovel, you gotta buy that in advance.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're already prepared. Like too many times we try to prepare when something is happening. It's already too late.
Yeah.
And this is why like the rich get richer, because everybody knows that it works in cycles.
Yeah.
So you don't prepare for bad times during bad times, you prepare for bad times during good times. Mm-hmm. So when things are going great, instead of like celebrating, you know that eventually it's not going to be so great. Yeah. So you're already preparing for that. So now when it's not great, you can take advantage. That's what rich people do. The opposite is for middle class and poor people, where it's always bad times, but they just double down on just the negativity during the bad time. Like you just and then it just becomes like a constant cycle of just like a rat race, right? So that's something that's extremely important, is to look at opportunities and prepare for crashes in advance, as opposed to trying to jump in when it's already happening.
Even for me, I prepared for the 2020 crash since 2008 when I missed the opportunity. So now it feels like it's a cakewalk, even when I said Coinbase may have, that's me studying every financial firm, every brokerage since the 1890s. Like I'm not saying that they are going to go insolvent, I hope they don't. But when you shut down certain programs and you're going on hiring freezes, while the assets that well, even retail trading is down 18%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So primary revenue driver for Coinbase is going down. You have to be mindful and study, but Terrence and Troy, what would you say for the recession?
I mean, I was listening to an athlete the other day. I forget who it was, and he had this mindset of like Operation Zero, and it was like no matter how much he had made, the next day was a new day, so we had to figure out how to make money.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm. So if you have that mindset, that almost teaches that financial discipline. So I'm 100% agreeing with what Rashad said. It was like the education part is the most important thing, right? Because at that point, you're limitless with your opportunities, and so you get more opportunities when you're educated. The other thing is like having a skill. Like people underestimate that. Like I know they used to have trade schools, but having a skill takes away a lot of the barriers for you to be successful, right? Like rather than have a job, have a profession where there's always going to be a need, right? So everybody's not going to be the greatest investor in the world, but somebody should be a plumber. We're always going to be
electrician.
Right? You could be an electrician. Somebody's always going to be. So find a skill, especially in these times, because even if you had a career, like you could be doing that on the side as well. And now you have more money to now invest and become more successful and have more opportunities. And so those two things are important. That mindset, I forget, it might have been KD. It was just like, he had made money, and it kind of like after his first year, he was just like, wait, where's my money? And it was like, wait, I have to figure this out. Like, no, I have to go back to operation zero. Every day I got to figure out a new way. And that's going to lead to opportunities. And it's going to expand your mind too. That's kind of one of the things, especially during the pandemic. Especially, I can speak for myself, that definitely happened. It was like, oh, new opportunity to learn. Let me learn as much as I can. First thing I do is like, all right, grasp it, and let's go teach it. You know what I mean? That's how we just grow.
Listen, want to have chance?
You want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with everything you're saying. I feel like the biggest thing that you can invest in is yourself and your skill set, in addition to your relationships. There's a cat named Lethal Shooter that I'm sure you know.
Be shooting like hook shots from
so this guy, I'm in my DMs, right? He slides into my DMs. This is like 3 or 4 years ago, right? And he's like, yo, I know you got a basketball crib at your house. Let me come by, spend some time with you. Let's work on your jump shot, right? The first time I read, I'm like, I ain't working on that jump shot. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a jump shot back then, and I'm not gonna have a jump shot now, right? He hits me again, right? And it's like, yo, let me come. I'll just give you a free session, right? Eventually, he tracks me down, comes to the house, right? He is a phenomenal teacher, right? Me, I ain't never been able to hoop like that, but he spends the time, and I'm wondering, I'm like, what's his angle, right? What is he trying to get out of it, right? He did that to so many different people, right? And one conversation happens, and then I'm talking to Machine Gun Kelly, who's my next door neighbor, and now he's shooting with him, and before you know it, he's shooting with KD. Before you know it, he's shooting, with some of the biggest athletes in the game, right? This is a guy who came to LA with a basketball, right? He didn't come with a bunch of contacts. He didn't come with nobody put him on, right? He put in the work, and he built his relationships from the ground up. He used his social media. He didn't have a lot of followers. It's not like I saw him and was like, oh, this guy's already popping. He built it from the ground up with using his skill set, right? So what I always tell people is whatever your skill set is, right? Whether you're the best in finance, whether you're the best dentist, whether you're the best architect, whatever it is that you're passionate about, how are you using your resources as best you can, right? And he's just a pure example. I'm so proud of him now because he's like blown. The guy's in video games now, right? And it's happened over these last couple of years because he put in the work and he built his relationships.
Can we say relationships will lead us out of a recession if you're an entrepreneur? Is that the big takeaway?
Relationships save your life. And I feel like too many times we don't focus on cultivating relationships. And that is more important than any other skill set that you can have. It's like you can be the hardest worker, you can be the most talented person, you can, get up early, go to bed late, and it doesn't matter if you don't have the relationships. And it's like the Lethal Shooter thing is a good story because it's a marketing story as well. And it's like, I actually follow him, and what he does is, if you're not familiar with him, he's has little Yachty running suicide drills. It's weird, but I understand it because it's then they post it on their page, and he gets all of these rappers. It's like Gary Vee, right? It's why is Gary Vee? Because they have the influence. So you get the people with the influence to do things that is not normal, for them, right? It's it's not even like they're playing ball; they're actually running drills. So now that's interesting. So now it raises his profile, and now he can do personal training. He can, do whatever he wants because he has millions of followers. Anything that he posts goes viral, and he's established himself as an authority in the space. Chris Brinkley is another one. Chris Brinkley is a trainer who he got on, and he you see that loft in New York, that's Chris Brinkley's where he works out at. So Carmelo when he had the hoodie on. So you get. But he also he have Dave East in there, stuff like that. So he gets these NBA players and these celebrities to train, and just by doing that, posting on social media, it's automatically made him authority in the space.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.